Alright, so the spring fishing season is right around the corner, so I figured there really couldn't be a better time to restock on a little bit of tackle here. So inside these two boxes, I've got a whole bunch of tackle for this upcoming fishing season. Let's get right into it. Alright, so as I said, inside these boxes right here, as you can see, I have a whole bunch of fishing tackle for this upcoming fishing season. So I figured I'd unbox it and go over why I got all this stuff. I've got some new stuff in here, as well as some stuff that has worked super well for me over the past couple of years. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's come out with the first bait right here. And that's going to be the tried and true Z-Man Chatterbait. This is actually the Chatterbait Elite. These are a couple of my favorite baits to use for especially the pre-spawn fishing season. I found like a little bladed jig, a little vibrating jig like this is going to work super, super well, especially pre-spawn as these big females are moving up shallow. I've got two pretty standard colors, a little black and blue and a white chartreuse, both in a 3/8 ounce size. Something I'm going to be throwing mainly up shallow, around timber, around reed edges for some of those big bites this time of year. But obviously, this bait is a bait that really works all year round, spring, summer, fall, maybe even the winter in some parts. But this is a bait that's going to work really well, and especially when paired up with this next bait right here. And that is going to be the Googan Bait's Saucy Swimmer, or really just any paddle tail swim bait like this. Couple soft plastic swim baits, 3.3 inch, 3.8 inch, as you can see right here. And these are baits, again, that just catch fish. And especially this time of year, when you pair it up with a bait like this, especially this 3.3 size with this little chatterbait, you really cannot go wrong with a bait like that, really all year round. But I figured I'll restock. I got really some natural colors for these swim baits, especially when you have a soft plastic that you can use as a moving bait like this. They're going to get ripped up pretty easily, really no matter how durable they are. These fish are going to absolutely attack it. So you can't really go wrong with just getting a few extra swim baits like this. Let's get into the next bait. Alright, so we still got a bunch of stuff in here. Let's get into the next couple baits. And those are going to be just a few jigs. I was looking at my tackle box the other day, and I realized that I was really running low on some natural colored jigs. I've got a finesse jig as well as a football head jig, or a little juicy and a gridiron jig, as you can see right here. And two natural colors, a 3/8 ounce and a 1/2 ounce. This 1/2 ounce one, I'm really going to be casting out and dragging along the bottom, something that's going to get a ton of big bites this time of year. And a bait like this, a finesse jig, is probably my #1 confidence bait this time of year. It gets big bites, especially when paired up with a creature bait or craw trailer on the back. So really all the baits that I've gone over so far are baits that I use a ton and I catch a ton of fish on this time of year. But as we go deeper, there are going to be a few baits that maybe aren't as confident. I am not as confident in as I am with these, so it should be interesting. Let's get to those in a minute, though. But as we're going down here, let's see what we got next. Let's see a couple of these top waters that I've got right here. I've got one of these baits is a bait that I've used really since the first time I started fishing, and the other one is a bait that really just over the last year or two I've really learned to love, and that's going to be this Hummer, a bait that I really didn't throw a whole lot until last year, the year before that. This bait is so effective in the spring and the summer, especially when paired up, again, with one of these Saucy Swimmers as a trailer on the back of it, or maybe even a fluke style bait like that. But this is a bait that I really just started to use a lot. I got a little white color, something that's going to imitate a baitfish, a shad, on the top. And this is a bait I'm excited to use this spring, especially up shallow along these reed edges. Should catch a ton of fish. Now contrast that with this bait right here, the popper. This is a bait that was really one of my first confidence baits, one of the first baits that I was able to throw out and catch a ton of fish on, and that is a popper. I've got a black blooper right here. I realized that I had a white topwater blooper, the counterpart to this one, but I do like mixing up the colors based on the shadow it gives off on the top. Can really entice those fish to bite with a few different colors. Alright, so let's get into another bait, and this bait, if you watch my channel for really any length of time, if you were watching my channel about this time last year, and over the last few years, you know that this is a bait that I have just a ton of confidence in, and it catches big fish, and is probably my #1 confidence hard jointed swim bait, and that is going to be the baby bull shad right here. this bait catches so many fish, so many big fish. I'll actually take it out of the package right here so you guys can get a little bit better of a look at it. Alright, just take a look at this bait. This is a slightly different color than I've ever had, but this bait is just so good. It's a slow sinking 3.75 inch jointed swim bait right here, 2 trebles on the bottom. And for whatever reason, this thing just pulls in fish. And even if you don't catch the fish, which most of the time it does get those bites, the amount of follows that you're going to get on this bait, the amount of fish that you might not have seen before that are going to follow your bait in, and you can even take a follow-up cast with like weightless Texas rig per se, with maybe like a lunker log on the back, a Senko on the back. The amount of follows and hits you're going to get on this bait is just, it's really incredible. And I've caught so many big fish on this bait, especially in the pre-spawn, maybe a little bit in the post-spawn and the summer. This bait just catches fish and catches big fish at that. Like I said, slightly different color than I ever used, so I figured I'd change it up a little bit. It's still a shad pattern, but it's got a little bit of that purple on top. Those extremely sticky hooks, as I get hooked about 4 times in a matter of 3 seconds. But if you guys have not fished this bait, I would just so highly recommend it. It absolutely destroys some of these big fish in the spring. So let's get into the next bait. Alright, so it looks like we got a few more hard baits in here. So before we get into some stuff that I haven't used as much before, let's get into some more of these baits that I've used a ton and caught a ton of fish on. And those are going to be the Googan Scout, a jerkbait. And over the last 2 years, this has become easily my favorite bait to fish year-round in almost any situation you can think of. Really, the only time I'm going to lean away from this is in super, super shallow, grassy water. Other than that, I am fishing this year-round. I'm fishing this in every application, and it catches big fish. Over this last season, it really cemented itself as my favorite bait of all time when it caught my personal best bass, the 732, over in one of the bigger lakes on the kayak. But this bait, I've got a junior size, I've got a regular size, and this bait just catches fish. I know it's not the best application for every situation, especially in that shallow water, up in that brush, which is a lot of time what you're fishing in the spring. But if you can find a rocky point, maybe a drop-off to throw a jerkbait like this, you have to really take advantage of that, especially in some of this colder water. It catches big fish, it catches a lot of fish, and it's a fun way to fish. I mean, I really do like dragging a half-ounce jig on the bottom. It catches, like I said, a ton of fish, big fish, but it's hard to beat throwing a jerkbait, and especially in clear water, when you see that strike, it's honestly pretty incredible to see what these fish will do at a little injured-looking bait fish. So make sure you throw the jerkbait if you haven't, is kind of what I'm getting at here. Let's get into the next bait. These are 3 baits inside the bottom of this box that are honestly super standard bass fishing lures that I've never really used before. I mean, little square bill crankbait. This is a Googan Squad banger, just the standard size. I've used this a little bit. I've caught a bunch of fish on it, and it's a really nice bait, obviously, but I'm just not super in tune with my crankbait fishing skills. And even when you move away from that, come down to some of these deep diving crankbaits. These are the Googan Squad Recon and the Grande Recon. I have a bunch of deeper lakes around me, and I figured, why not just throw one of these big crankbaits? I mean, these deep diving crankbaits, they catch big fish. Nonetheless, I really wanted to kind of hone in on some of my crankbait fishing skills, even if they're not really existent at this point. But just got a few of these natural colors for these deep diving crankbaits. I'm hopefully going to be able to catch at least a few fish on these baits this year. I really want to try a few different things. And like I said, this is a pretty standard way of fishing, but something that I have not really gotten into. So with that said, looks like we have finished our first box of goodies right here. So let's get into the next one. Try not to make this video too long and go over some of the stuff that we have in our second box right here. Alright, so looking inside this box, we got a few more soft plastics in here, but before we get into that, let's get through some of this terminal tackle, some of the, I guess you could say, the more boring stuff that I'll just go over for a minute right here. But I just got a few bullet weights. I mean, pretty standard. Just to put on a Texas rig, maybe a flipping setup, something like that. Carolina rig even. Got a 1/4 ounce. I got a 5/16 ounce. I believe I have a 3/16 ounce in that box somewhere. But just some Carl Stash weights right there. Nothing too interesting. But I figured I'd show you kind of my setup anyway. I've got 2 packs of 4/0, just straight Texas rig hooks. And these are EWG, extra wide gap, offset worm hooks. And this is something that I really use for everything. If I'm throwing a Texas rig with a creature bait, flipping up shallow, if I'm throwing a weightless Texas rig, really a 4/0 size is pretty standard for what I use. Obviously, I'll use a 5/0 occasionally for some bigger baits, but not a lot. And a 3/0 I will use on a regular basis with some of those smaller plastics. But got some weights, got some hooks. These are some heavy-duty flipping hooks. With that said, let's get into, in my opinion, a little bit more exciting stuff. Like I said, I have that 3-pack of 3/16, or that 3/16 ounce pack of weights. Let's get into some of, in my opinion, the more exciting stuff. And right on top here, this is a bait that I've never used before. This is the Googan Bait's Nuke Punch, as you can see right there, a newly released Googan bait over the last couple of months here, and I really wanted to get my hands on it. Finally, I've got a few packs of these baits. They were pretty much all sold out in all the colors, but I was able to get my hands on a pack of these green pumpkin ones and a pack of these green pumpkin purple ones. Not necessarily the most standard color with this one, but I mean, a green pumpkin, it's hard to go wrong with. These are baits that this time of year I'm probably going to be pairing up with a hook like this and a weight like this. And I'm going to be pitching that up into some of that structure, especially pre-spawn and during the spawn. This bait is going to catch big fish. That's really why I want it. It's a big... I'll actually take one out of the package for those of you who have not seen it, since it is a bit of a newer bait. This is a large profile bait. It's got a pretty wide body, nice grooves in there, and then it's just got these 2 appendages on the bottom. And these are going to be doing a ton of kicking. It's very similar to the Bandito bug, but it's got a little slimmer profile. It doesn't come with those side little claws on it, and it's just meant for being super streamlined, coming down into that grass, into that timber, and just catching big fish. Obviously, the Bandito bug is one of my favorite baits for fishing up shallow and in some of those harder situations to get into during this time of the year. And a bait like this is supposed to be a little bit more durable, supposed to have just a little bit more fine-tuned for just especially punching, flipping, pitching, and it should be interesting to see how that compares to a bait like the Googan Bait's Bandito bug, a bait that I've used a lot. So I might do a comparison video on that, I might not, but I figured that would be pretty interesting. Let's get into the next bait. Alright, I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit as we go down to the wire here with some of these soft plastics. But right here, I've got 2 packs of my 2 favorite colors to throw in the Googan Bait Slunger Log, a Senko style bait, a stick bait style bait. And obviously, these baits catch a ton of fish. If you know anything about fishing, bass fishing, you've thrown this bait, you've caught fish on this bait. And obviously, it's super, super effective, which is why I got it. My 2 favorite colors here, I got a baby bass. This could be substituted for maybe a green pumpkin, something slightly darker, but really a natural color, baby bass, green pumpkin, something like that. And then my favorite color of all time, this cinnamon color. This bait has caught me really more big fish than almost any other bait. And obviously, a Senko style bait, a stick bait, is going to catch you a ton of big fish. But something about this cinnamon color really just gets those fish riled up. The 2 5-inch lunker logs right here, pretty standard, honestly, but you really can't go wrong with a standard bait like that. Alright, we're kind of coming down to the wire here. We've got a couple more baits in here. Coming up, second to last, I believe this is, we've got a few of these packs of the Googan Bait's Rattle and Chunk. This is a jig trailer style bait. Obviously, I'm probably going to throw this on just a little Texas rig, or maybe a Ned rig. This bait could work super, super well. But it's really meant for fishing on the back of, see if I can find it in all this stuff, on the back of like a little juicy jig like this. I mean, you really cannot go wrong with a little watermelon colored Rattle and Chunk and a natural colored little green pumpkin style little juicy finesse jig. And I'm probably going to be pairing this up a lot this year. I'm pretty sure this is probably going to be glued on my rod, stuck on my rod for the next 2-3 months without being taken off, just because it catches fish and it's a really fun bait to throw this time of year. So I've got 2 packs of those little rattling chunks. A few different colors. I've got Blue Baby and Watermelon, which are 2 of my, or I guess this is Watermelon Red Flake. I'm not sure why that doesn't say it, the whole name of the bait, but Blue Baby, Watermelon Red Flake, 2 favorite colors for a bait like that. I do like just a pure watermelon is good as well. But now let's get into our last bait in either of these boxes. We've gone through two boxes full of baits, and we've come down to the last one, which is the Googan Baits Slim Shake Worm. And I mean, there really can't be enough good things said about this bait. It catches fish, it catches big fish. This is Watermelon Red Flake of the 9-pack, the regular sized 6.5-inch Slim Shake Worm, not that larger 9-inch or 8-inch, whatever that one is. But this bait catches a ton of fish. I like throwing this on either a shaky head or a wacky rig. Even a Nico rig, I get a ton of luck on that. But you can also fish it on a weightless or weighted Texas rig or a Carolina rig, and it's going to catch a ton of fish as well. But without further ado, that was a bit of a longer video. I do realize that, but I hope you guys did enjoy. I hope you guys maybe learned something about some of these baits, about why I chose them, about why I really like fishing them during this time of year, and really all year round, because this is not only going to last me for the next couple of months in the spring, but this should last me for the next year, along with the other tackle that I already have. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you guys did enjoy this video. And if you want to see more unboxings, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe to the channel. I know we've been doing a lot of kind of, I guess, more boring content, at least in my opinion. I'm not going out fishing. I know you guys really do enjoy these, which is why I keep making them. But if you do want to see more of this, like I said, drop a comment down below. I will be out fishing. I'll be doing a whole bunch of fishing over the next couple of weeks. It seems to be warming up a bit. I've actually gone fishing past couple of weeks. I've gone a few times. I've had a little bit of luck seeing a few fish, getting a few bites. But I think it's going to start really heating up over these next couple of weeks. So thank you guys so much for watching. Really hope you guys did enjoy. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.